Hey y'all, it's life coach and licensed therapist Robin May. Welcome to the I Believe in Marriage YouTube page. If you've been here before, welcome back. We have a big goal, y'all. We want 500 subscribers to this page by this summer, and you can help us. All you have to do is hit subscribe, like the video, share the video. That helps it get before more eyes, and when YouTube sees that it's being shared, it will begin to put it in front of even more people. So please help us out by hitting subscribe, clicking like, and commenting. All right, y'all, listen. I am so excited because over the course of the next 4 weeks, I am going to be giving you a real peek, a real look into the Can You Hear Me Now communication course. Now, y'all, this is my baby. I have poured my years of expertise, my spiritual sensitivity, my personal experience, and the years of the work I have done with so many couples into this project. This course is a game changer in your marriage. It really will help you understand what goes on in the communication with your spouse and what you can do differently. And so over the next 4 weeks, I am going to let you see one video from each of the modules. Now, before I do the first video, I want to explain to you what I mean by the modules. The course is broken up into 3 sections. Section 1 is the assessment phase. This is a proven framework for helping you resolve the communication challenges in your marriage. So step 1 is the assessment phase. In this phase, we take an assessment of what's going on in your communication. Listen, if you don't know what's wrong, how in the world are you going to fix it? So we start by just assessing, what are you bringing to the table? What is your spouse bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table so that you can understand what you're working with? In the second phase, after we've done the assessment, we then become very specific about your relationship. We begin to identify the breach, the challenges in your specific relationship. So first we've done a general assessment, then we identify the breach in your relationship, and then the third step is we begin to make some adjustments. What in the world are we going to do differently? Those are the 3 modules. So today I'm going to be sharing with you one lesson, and it's just a snippet from that lesson in assessment 1. In this video, I am going to be talking about family roles. Now listen, I'm going to be picking up right in the middle of the video, so let me give you a little bit of information so you'll know what we're talking about. In your marriage, you and your spouse are dealing with the realities of what happened well before you all got married, and even what happened in your childhood. And you and I both played some kind of role in our families of origin, our families that we grew up in. We played some kind of role. And so you show up in your marriage with the role you played, your spouse shows up in the marriage with the role he or she played, and you're wondering why sometimes it seems like you're missing each other, you're bumping heads, because it may be the role you played and the role he or she played is conflicting with one another. And so at this point of the video, you're going to see me breaking down each of those roles. Then you're going to hear a couple of case studies so that you can see how that may play out in your marriage, okay? So I'm super excited about this. At the end of the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit like, and then comment and let me know what role you believe you played, and try to take a guess at the role your spouse played. Last thing, y'all, trust me. Trust me when I say you want to go ahead and invest in the Can You Hear Me Now communication course now. Don't wait. Go ahead and invest in it now, okay? All right, let's go on over here to the video. As a child. So family roles are impacting all of your adult interactions. So with that in mind, let's identify the different roles, and then I want you to pick the one that you played as a child. Now, these family roles were originally developed by a psychologist who focused on what happens when there is active addiction. But since then, psychologists have adapted these to help us understand family dynamics, period. Now, when you study family roles, there are different names or different categories to choose from. So I have narrowed these down to 6. I'm going to list them, and then I'm going to give you a brief explanation of each. You can find this worksheet right where you found this lesson. All right, here are the 6 roles. Role number 1, the family or the problem child. I said the family child, the problem child, the golden child, the invisible or quiet child, the class clown, the helper, and the peacemaker. Now, Let's go over these roles in more detail, starting with the problem child, sometimes called the scapegoat or the black sheep. This is the person that may have had a lot of drama in their life growing up. They may have gotten into trouble a lot. They always had something going on. Sometimes the problem child seemed to seek attention at any cost. They had problems so often, and they were often the reason there were challenges in other people's mind. The scapegoat feels like they were never given a fair shake, and they often feel isolated in the family. Then number 2, the golden child. This is the person who seemingly did everything right. They got the grades. They did what they were told. They didn't cause too much of a problem growing up. Sometimes considered the hero of the family. Parents might have said, "You never give me any trouble." The golden child often feels responsible and feels like they have to be a perfectionist and they always have to perform. Then number 3, the invisible or quiet child. This is the person who is low maintenance, not because they did everything right, but because they simply stayed out of the way. Sometimes the invisible or quiet child created their own safe space in the home by isolating and being by themselves. At times, the quiet child has resentment towards other members of the family. Number 4, the class clown or the family jester. This is the person who did their part to bring levity to the family, even in moments that may be inappropriate. The class clown may feel uncomfortable with difficult emotions, and so they use humor to self-protect. They sometimes have challenges when knowing when it's okay to be serious, and they sometimes slack in their personal responsibility. Then there's the helper. This is the person who everyone turns to in the family to be the fixer. They are the problem solver. They're the ones who gets things done. They're the one everyone depends on. They have taken on a parental role even in childhood. Sometimes they feel like a parent to the parent. The helper often finds their identity in helping other people. And then lastly, the peacemaker. This is the person who keeps the common thread in the family intertwined by smoothing things over. This person often ignores their own feelings in order to help other people sort through theirs. They are often in the middle of disagreements and often feels exhausted because they're always helping people sort through their issues. All right, that's it. Those are the 6 family roles that often show up in our family of origin and continue to impact how we show up in our marriages. Okay, I want you to use the worksheet included with this lesson to identify which role you played in your family of origin and then answer the questions that help you to see how that pattern plays out in your marriages. I'm going to give you 2 case studies to help you see how our family roles impact our marriage. As I read these case studies, I want you to think about your marriage, to consider how your childhood role interacts with that of your spouse's childhood role. Here's case study number 1. Let's look at Mary and Mark. Mary was the golden child growing up. She was the good girl. She got good grades and got everything right. Even today, she is a perfectionist who crosses her T's and dots her I's and expects others to do the same. Mary meets Mark. Well, Mark was the family jester, the person in the family who kept things easygoing, lighthearted, and made everything a joke. Early on in their marriage, Mary and Mark appreciated the differences in each other. Mary actually enjoyed how easygoing Mark was, and it helped to lighten her up. Mark loved how Mary handled business and even how she looked out for him. But after a few years, those differences were no longer as valued. Mary started to get annoyed with the fact that Mark would make jokes whenever she wanted to talk about something serious. She felt that she was the only one who had to take care of everything and that he was just too silly. Mark was sick of Mary's type A personality. He felt that she didn't want to enjoy life and didn't want him to either. He felt frustrated with how often she wanted to have conversations that were just too serious. At this point in their marriage, the roles they played in childhood continued into adulthood and was now showing up in their marriage. What used to be characteristics that they valued in one another has now become a point of irritation. Here is case study number 2. Let's look at Jackie and Joshua. Aren't y'all loving these names I'm coming up with? All right. Jackie grew up as the helper in her family. Jackie was at least 10 years older than the sibling next to her. She was one out of 4 children, and by the time her mother had her last child, Jackie says her mom had clocked out of mothering. Jackie said she was the one responsible for dinner, washing clothes, helping with homework, etc. Jackie feels like she was parenting since she was 16 years old. Joshua was raised by a single mom and had 2 older sisters. Joshua admits that he was spoiled by his mothers and his sisters, and he said he was never given any chores growing up. He was pampered by the women in his life, and he knew they would do anything for him. Clearly, he was the golden child. While dating, Jackie quickly picked up where his mother left off, and actually, Jackie didn't pick up where Joshua's mother left off because his mother and sisters were still very much in the picture even after they got married. So actually, Jackie just became one of the many women helping Joshua. Jackie often felt like the 4th wife, 4th to his mother and his sisters. She eventually grew tired of how it seemed like Joshua expected her to take care of him like he was her child. Joshua couldn't understand what the issue was. From his perspective, all he knew was that women took on certain roles, and he simply expected his wife to continue what his mother and sisters did. When Joshua tried to talk to Jackie, his approach was often accusatory because he couldn't understand what had changed. She was the one who started to act different. Jackie could admit that she was bitter, and that bitterness was impacting how she communicated with Joshua. Now it's time to reflect on your own story. Allow the 2 case studies that I just shared to help you jumpstart your own family roles and how it impacts your marriage. All right, guys, as I shared, that was just a snippet of the Can You Hear Me Now communication course. That video was from phase 1, step 1, the assessment phase. That phase has several steps in it, but one of the assessments that you want to do is what is the role? What is the role you played as a child? What is the role your husband or wife played as a child in your family of origin? Now remember, I want you to comment in the comment section and let me know what role you played, what role your spouse played, and don't forget, now is the time to invest in the Can You Hear Me Now communication course. Trust me, you want to go ahead and invest now. All right, I'll talk to you soon.